Welcome to Beyond Broken Hungry. We understand the struggle of juggling your career, relationships, nutrition, fitness, and finances while trying to pursue your dreams. And, stay sane too. We're here to make that both simple and fun for you. In this podcast, we interview a variety of wellness experts to share their expertise with all of us and make this journey we call life just a little bit more balanced. We're stumbling towards wellness right alongside you and are so happy to have you with us on this journey. So, with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Beyond Broke and Hungry. Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond Broke and Hungry. I am Ellen.
And I'm Dara.
And this is a bittersweet episode. It is the wrap up of season 2. It's crazy to think that we're already through 2 seasons. It's actually kind of nuts.
It's kind of awesome at the same time. Like, it makes me kind of be like, I have a podcast with 2 seasons. Have you listened?
Because there's enough to binge now.
Right. Like, if you're a podcast binger, I hope you're binging and I hope you're like, oh my God, this is the last episode. I'm so sad it's over. But don't worry, because there's more to come. But we have to finish the second season before we can go to the third.
Funny how that works, huh?
Right? Chronological order, that's a thing.
Yeah. So as you guys picked up on, this season was all about nutrition, and we talked to so many different experts and we learned so much. And some of the people that we interviewed are just normal people going about their lives and finding ways to maintain a healthy diet and balanced nutrition. And so we learned a lot. We hope you learned a lot. Dara, what are some of the things that you noticed through all of our interviews?
Yeah. So one of the things, like kind of the bigger things that I think was a continued trend was that although the definitions of nutrition kind of seemed a little bit different, they all were the same. And even though like nutrition might mean something different to another person, it really is all the same. I mean, it really starts with, the basics, and kind of going from there. And it's very unique to everybody. The only thing that's different about nutrition from person to person is how it works for you. And what works best for you. And literally every single person that we spoke with said just that, that like nutrition is the basics of everything, our health, all of our functionality, even mental, physical, all of those things. It starts with nutrition. But how it runs is dependent on the person. And each nutrition coach that we spoke with said that, it's really hard. And even all these other podcasts that you listen to out there, it's really hard to give a end all be all, one size fits all formula to the general public, because everybody is unique. Everybody's bodies are different. And maybe you hate broccoli, so maybe like being like, oh, just eat more vegetables. Maybe that doesn't really work for you. Maybe you have to have a little bit more balance. Maybe it has to be specific and tailored to who you are and your specific needs. So I thought that was really an interesting point. And just from talking to all of them, and then like Ellen and I obviously discussing our nutrition and our journeys and how we go about that. Like, my journey looks so different from yours. I'm very like meat and protein based. I do like to eat 3 meals and 2 snacks. That's kind of my formula on a daily basis. You're a little bit more of a snacker picker. And when I say snacker, I don't mean like you're eating snacks all day long. Like, like some people instead of 3 meals might eat 6 because they break their meals up and they like to kind of eat a little bit at a time. I feel like that's kind of the formula that works for you. And my formula, I don't think would work for you. But that's what makes nutrition so great, because you can be a completely different person, but still have a quote unquote healthy nutrition journey. Just because you're not eating chicken, brown rice, and broccoli every day doesn't mean that you're not healthy.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think it's so important to note that, as you were saying, everybody has their different way of doing it, but there were a few consistent things. It was make sure you're getting enough, protein, carbs, and fats. Mm-hmm. and go off of what your body is telling you. Don't force yourself to eat something that sounds absolutely terrible, because that won't be sustainable. And, you know, like you were saying, if you hate broccoli, try something different, or try cooking. Like, I hate raw vegetables. To get me to eat raw broccoli, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I will typically roast my vegetables or saute them with a bunch of seasonings. And you know what? Seasonings are really high in nutrients and like vitamins and minerals. And so the more flavor you add, a lot of the time, the healthier your food actually is, which is fun, because actually chicken, broccoli, and rice without seasoning, odds are, has less nutritional value than it would if you added whatever seasonings, like cumin, coriander, fennel, or whatever flavor sounds good to you. And you can kind of load it up, and some of those have, you know, antifungal properties or can help your digestion. And so it's all these little things that you can add that can just bulk things up and make them more nutritionally dense. But as far as, you know, as vegetables, you can find another way to cook them, or you can, you know, if you want to, you can freeze zucchini and cut it up and put it in your smoothie, and you can't even taste it, and it just kind of acts like creamy ice cubes. Or you can do spinach, or you can do carrots in your smoothies. There's all these different ways that you can incorporate healthier options into your meals. And, you know, as long as you are eating more whole foods, like foods that are from the earth. I know pretty much everybody that we were talking to was mentioning the benefits of whole foods, eating lots of fruits and vegetables. And I remember Dr. Akua was saying that over and over, you know, eat the rainbow, eat real foods from the earth, because it's going to be easier for your body to process a potato than it would be to process bread, because it's one ingredient, comes from the earth. We've been processing it for millennia. And so our body knows how to handle it. And so you have to, of course, figure out what works for you. If you find that, you know, one thing to keep in mind is it can take a few months to really figure out if a diet or whatever if you're trying to cut something out, if it works for you. So give it time, because kind of resetting your system, whether it's an elimination diet or adding more vegetables, sometimes it can start out where your body's getting a lot more fiber, and maybe it upsets your stomach for a second. And then once you kind of detox everything in your system that was there before, you may function way better. But it takes a bit for your body to get all these things moving and get used to filling it with nutrients if you've been living off of junk food your whole life.
Right, exactly. You know, I think just starting with the basics and figuring out what works best for you. You know, like we talked a lot about prepping and prepping your nutrition for the week and setting yourself up for success. And that might look different to me than it does to, you know, a nurse that works weekends, overnights, or even if you're a server and you are trying to live a healthy lifestyle, but you work on the weekends and you have like this kind of crazy life, you're not going to be meal prepping on a Sunday more than likely. You know, you have to do what works best for your lifestyle and fit it into your box, because your box looks completely different from another box. And, you know, but one thing is for sure, setting yourself up for success with your nutrition is important. And that's, I mean, they always say that the rule is 80-20. 80% is the kitchen, 20% is whatever workouts you're doing. So nutrition is the foundation of your healthy lifestyle, quote unquote, that you want to live, that you want to pursue. If you want abs, if you want toned muscles, if you want all that, you might get it if you work your butt off and you're still eating junk food, but you're going to probably work, you know, 3-4 months longer and harder than somebody else who is actually doing the nutrition part, because that's the foundation of it. That's where it's all going to start. And that's, you know, that's 80-20 nutrition, gym. So, you know, it's really so important You don't have to be the world's healthiest person and only eat this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it's called balance for a reason, like being on a healthy nutrition lifestyle. I don't like to use the word diet, but having a healthy lifestyle, means that every now and then you eat ice cream, or, if you're lactose intolerant, maybe you eat non-dairy yogurt or sorbet or whatever, but that means that you every now and then have that quote unquote treat. It means that you have a juicy hamburger and French fries at your favorite restaurant, or a slice of pizza or whatever. That's what balance is all about, and being able to fit that in. And whether you count your macros or you use the plate method, whatever works best for you. I do love to count my macros, but lately I've been feeling like it's doing more harm than good to me mentally, because I keep looking at these numbers and I'm like, oh my God, I went 2 fats over, and it stresses me out. I'm not reaching enough protein, blah, 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 blah. So, sometimes you have to kind of take a step back and reevaluate. Okay, that worked for a time. I reached a certain goal, and now that's not working for me. So how do I adjust? And you're constantly having to readjust and reevaluate where you're at, because, there's no end destination. There's no I'm going to lose 10 pounds and then that's it. You're going to lose 10 pounds, but guess what? You need to keep that 10 pounds off, so it's all about just every single day putting your best foot forward to have that healthy lifestyle. And it starts with nutrition. That's the big thing.
Absolutely. So really quick, I think it'd be kind of fun to, I know we touched on it kind of throughout this season, but each of us kind of tell how we go about our nutrition and some of our favorite tips or things that we implement and our methods. So you go first.
Okay. Well, I think, I've been on this journey for quite some time, but I feel like I've gotten to a higher level in the last 6 months even, of really diving into it. I'm about 8 months into actually meeting with a dietitian and a nutrition coach and working with somebody who is helping me, rather than me just not that there's anything wrong with reading articles and kind of figuring it out, but I have somebody that has specifically tailored my nutrition lifestyle to me. I'm the kind of person, I really like to have variety in my food. I kind of switch off and on to things that I do, but one thing I really love is, I love doing the Ezekiel bread toast with some avocado, and actually might sound weird, but I like the cinnamon raisin with my avocado, and a slice of tomato, egg whites, and everything but the bagel seasoning. That's a wonderful breakfast. I do this week I've been eating a lot of oatmeal with peanut butter. It's PB2 powder, so it's a little lower in fat and carbs, and has a little bit more protein in it, with pomegranate seeds, and that's just been my jam. It's been so good. And then for lunches I kind of flop back and forth. I'll either do a wrap that has a lot of greens, salad, peppers, turkey, depending on what deli meat I'm eating, or I'll have a salad and I'll prep some chicken breasts and chop it up and just throw it in the salad. And then for dinner, if I'm not using a meal prep service, sweet potatoes, jasmine rice, ground turkey, ground chicken. Those are kind of my go-tos. I really love Mexican food, so I do cook a lot of Mexican style food. So I'll do taco salads, or burritos with a low carb tortilla or a gluten-free tortilla, because right now I'm going through some gut cleansing, so I have to eat gluten-free for a couple of weeks. But yeah, those are kind of a little bit of my go-tos. I also really love a good smoothie, a good protein smoothie. The protein supplement that I use is Advocare. It's so good. And I'll just do a scoop of the protein, some PB2, so I have that peanut butter flavor. I love Flavor Gods, chocolate donut seasoning. So I put that in there, and either a fresh banana, a frozen banana, and then I'll throw some spinach or kale in there. And that's a really, really good go-to for me as well. So I definitely have a lot of variety in my foods. But I try to keep it pretty basic. And then, on the weekends, if I want to go wherever and do whatever, or sometimes, I'll go to the grocery store and cook a fun meal. and something like that. So, just I know it sounds like a lot, but but I do like a lot of variety. So I would say like go-tos, smoothies and like any like Mexican style food that I can make, but obviously like make it a little bit more healthy. What about you? What are some of your go-tos?
So as you said, I'm a little bit more of kind of a snacker. I try to eat pretty intuitively. And so what I've been doing for probably the past year or so is I work out right before I start work. I tend to work out around 8 a.m. and I don't do that every day. And I kind of have my morning routine and all that stuff. But on the days that I do, I come back and I have some coffee and water and stuff. And then I usually don't actually eat my breakfast until around 9:30 or 10. And so I end up having my lunch, which tends to be pretty either lighter or leftovers or kind of both. And that's usually around 2 or 3. And so I might have a little snack in between, but I tend to snack the most between lunch and dinner. I just find that that's usually when I'm kind of, peckish and want something. So one of my biggest things that I do, I am not a meal prepper. I've tried doing it and I just find it exhausting and I get tired of the foods. And so what I tend to do is anytime that I make a recipe, I just make 2 to 3 times as much as I can eat right then. If I am having a friend over for dinner, I make enough for 4 people. And so we have leftovers. Each of us have stuff for lunch the next day, or if I end up with the leftovers or they end up with the leftovers, whatever. But I tend to go about things that way. Like last night, one of my friends came over. She and I made a veggie pasta. It was just a regular pasta. It wasn't a super healthy one. It wasn't like a protein pasta or anything like that. It was just what we both wanted. And so
Right.
we did. And you know what? That's okay. If you want pasta, have like, and you really don't want the alternative, have pasta. It's okay.
Do it.
Just have the pasta. And so we loaded it up with a ton of veggies and like a healthier tomato sauce that didn't have a bunch of additives in it, and just, tomato paste and a little bit of like cream cheese to make it creamy. And it was so good. And I have enough of it that I'm having leftovers, that I'll have those leftovers today for lunch. But some of my favorite little snacks to have in between meals are like, a cheese stick or cottage cheese. And then one of my favorites is actually just like a small handful of lightly salted roasted cashews. They're so good. And I try to
cashews.
Make sure I get the ones that are lightly salted, because the ones that are heavily salted have way too much salt. And it's like all that you can taste, and it completely cancels out any nutritional value. Probably not, but at least in my head it feels like that.
Well, sodium, yeah.
So much sodium. So I know at Kroger, they have like the Kroger brand nuts that are roasted but lightly salted, and I love them. So I always have some of those. Or, if I want a sweeter snack, I'll have like a piece of fruit. But I like with my snacks to get some, protein and healthy fats from them. So I try for the most part to not just be like constantly binging on like chips or something like that. Like I don't really keep that stuff in my house, because if I have it, I eat it.
Same.
But I also... I have a sweet tooth. And so after dinner, I almost always have something sweet, even if it's just a date that I like, a couple dates with peanut butter and chocolate chips on top. Like they're so good. They taste kind of like a Snickers. They're so good. So I do that a lot. But you just kind of have to figure out like what works for you. But for me, my biggest thing that I try to do is make sure that I'm getting in some veggies. Sure. With breakfast, I like the smoothie recipes that I have, but I'm very rarely in the mood for a smoothie. Usually I want like, toast with banana and peanut butter, or oatmeal with some fruit in it. A lot of the time I do yogurt with granola and berries. But what I do is I kind of bulk it out. So when I'm making, I'll get plain Greek yogurt with no flavor in it. And then I add some like frozen berries because they're so much cheaper, and they're always like, they're harvested at peak freshness. So you get a lot of nutrition. And I add in some flax seeds and some chia seeds and some shredded coconut. And then I tend to like getting I think I mentioned this before, but I like to get like off-brand $1 a box Rice Krispies, and I'll throw those in because first of all, they're a lot lower in sugar than the actual granola itself, and they kind of bulk it up a little bit, and it's cheaper, so it's kind of it's a fun little hack. And then I'll add some cinnamon, and I do that all the time. That's really my go-to breakfast. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's so important to kind of figure out what works for you, because like you were saying, our two tactics are so different. And these days I'm eating a little bit more protein than I used to, and I'm doing a little bit more on the strength side with my workouts. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting enough protein. But
for sure,
if you're eating vegetables, if you're eating fruits, and add some yummy seasonings in, find ones that you like that aren't just 100% salt. Like, yeah. I mean, I like to kind of make my own with the seasonings themselves. I know you really like doing seasoning mixes, and so you get like a pre-made blend and just throw that in.
Tony Satcherin's on everything. Not too much though, because it's heavy in sodium. Unless you get the low sodium one, then you're okay. But I feel like basically somebody who, let's say that you're listening to this podcast and you literally have no idea where to start with your nutrition. But one thing I would say, look at what you already are eating. Are you eating out multiple times a week? You know, when you eat out, what are you eating when you go out? You know, what are you keeping in your fridge? What are you keeping in your pantry? You know, like, you don't necessarily have to count your macros and make sure that you eat, you know, this amount of blah, 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 but you want to make sure that you're eating balanced food. You want to make sure, step 1, get rid of the fast food. Step 2, stop eating fried food. You know what I mean? And things with heavy in grease, and also pay attention. You might be cooking healthy meals, but you might also be using, you know, a quarter cup of olive oil, which has like 10 grams of fat in it. And that kind of depreciates the healthy meal that you're making, because it's making, you know, whatever. You could use a little bit of oil. That's a healthy fat. It's good for you. But if you're using too much, you're kind of canceling out your quote unquote healthy meal. But, you know, and then just start with whole foods. Like Ellen said, like things that a potato has one ingredient, potato, you know, a carrot has one ingredient, carrot. Broccoli, you know, like start with those whole foods. Chicken has, you know, basic, pretty much, depending on what farm it comes from, one ingredient chicken. You know,
try to find one ingredient chicken. Try to find one ingredient. Like if you're eating meat, try to, well, first off, what I try to do is I don't eat a ton of meat, and I try when I can to get the higher quality meat. And so don't be afraid of plant-based meals too. Like, have beans as your source of protein. It's way cheaper.
Oh yeah. And I think another thing too is just be open. Be open to try new things, because food is so good. And, you know, like I was so sheltered growing up with certain things because my mom was really picky. And it wasn't until college. I didn't have an avocado until I was 21 years old. And when I literally tried it, I was like, why have I not ever eaten this before? Like, where have I been living? Under a freaking rock? You know? And so being open to trying new things and having new flavors and being funky with your foods. Like sometimes I'm like, well, I like this and I like this. I wonder if I like it together. And 9 times out of 10, I do. You know, so it's really just being experimental. You know, don't be afraid to Google some recipes, and then if you know, like, or you know, use your crock pot. And literally, one of the recipes that we just posted was super super easy: chicken breast, red potatoes, green beans in the pot. Go throughout your day for 6 to 8 hours and come back, and then it's done. You know, and you know what you had to do? Literally put everything in a crock pot. That's all you had to do. It's so easy, you know? So I think, you know, just kind of like actually go through that Pinterest list that you've been saving for the past 10 years and pick one or two things and try those out. And, like maybe invest in a nutrition coach if you think that you need to, or you really don't know where to start, or send us a message, ask us like for some tips, or, what I like to do is I always write down my meals before the week starts. So Monday through Friday-ish, Saturday, depending on what I'm doing, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks are all already written out. And if sometimes if people just need to be told what to do, what works for me might not work for you. But if you send us a message and you ask us, hey, can you help me with a meal plan, I'd be more than happy to send you just one of my old meal plans of something that I wrote down, and you can kind of go off of that, at least to have some kind of organization in that. Because it can be a little intimidating when you are trying to start but don't really know where to start. But that's why we've created this. That's why we have this platform. That's why we talk to these experts, so that we can help guide you in that direction when you really just you want to start but you don't know what foot to put forward. That's why we do this, and that's why we're here for you. So don't be afraid to reach out, and don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone too, because you never know. Maybe you've never had that certain maybe you've never had jackfruit before, but you try it and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing. So be open-minded, I think, is a really good tip and piece of advice as well.
So I think that is a wrap for season 2. I know,
sad.
but season 3 will be coming at you hopefully within 2021. That's the goal. So
that is the goal.
So we have some fun things up our sleeve, and hope that you enjoyed season 2 and learned as much about nutrition as we did. And we will keep you posted on dates and all of that stuff for season 3. But if you aren't already subscribed to our newsletter, just go on our website, beyondbrokenhungry.com, and you can subscribe, and also check out our social media, and you can find everything there with updates and all that jazz. So
if you're a Twitter, don't go on Twitter, because I'm not very great with our Twitter. Yeah. But our Instagram and Facebook are great.
We use Instagram the most, I think. But yeah.
Yes, Instagram for sure.
And Pinterest too. So
we're on Pinterest.
We're pinning blog posts and recipes and stuff on Pinterest. So we love you guys so much, and we hope that you enjoyed season 2. Can't wait to come back and join you for season 3.
Yes.
And we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning into this week's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to Beyond Broken Hungry wherever you get your podcast, so you can be notified every time a new episode drops. It would also mean the world to us if you rate, review, and share the podcast too, so more people can join the tribe. Follow us on social media at Beyond Broke and Hungry to interact with us and see how we're stumbling towards wellness one day at a time.